I turned 50 on a Tuesday. Name's Sean. I'm a logistics manager for a mid-sized freight company and have been for the past 18 years. Nothing glamorous, nothing worth a Netflix documentary, just honest work, steady pay, and enough discipline to keep trucks on the road and customers off my back. I'm the guy who remembers birthdays, who books the hotel early, who refills the fridge before it's empty. You don't really notice men like me until we're gone. Or maybe, you don't notice us even then. I woke up that morning expecting something. Not a parade or confetti. I'm not that delusional. Just a gesture. Some burnt toast with "Happy Birthday, Dad" written in strawberry jam. A hug. A card. Even a lame, last-minute mug from a gas station would have done. Something to show they remembered I was still here. Still trying. Still holding the line. But the house was empty. Quiet in that eerie, unnatural way, like a hotel room right after checkout. Our golden retriever, Milo, didn't even bark. He was gone too. No note. No balloons. No pancakes. Not even the scent of shampoo lingering in the hallway. Just silence, sunlight pouring into the kitchen like it didn't give a damn, and the mocking blinking of the microwave clock. 7:13 a.m. Happy birthday, Sean. At first, I thought I'd gotten my dates mixed up. Maybe my wife, Laura, had taken the kids, Sophie and Tyler, on one of those early Saturday soccer tournaments, and I was just groggy. But no. Tuesday. Calendar on the fridge still had Dad's 50th, written in green marker from 3 weeks ago. Underlined twice. I stood there for a full minute, trying to piece it together. The fridge was emptier than usual. The keys to Lara's SUV were gone. Her overnight bag, missing. The kids' backpacks too. I checked the garage. Both cars gone. Milo's leash was missing from its usual hook. It hit me slowly. Like cold water running down your back instead of being splashed in your face. They left. Not for good, maybe. But they left. Without me. I didn't panic, not right away. I texted Laura. Hey, where'd you guys go? Try to keep it breezy. Cool. Like I wasn't already scanning for signs of a surprise party. Maybe they were picking up my favorite cake from that bakery downtown. Or heading to a breakfast place. Something big planned. No reply. I texted Sophie. Did Mom take you somewhere? Nothing. Called Tyler. Straight to voicemail. By 10 a.m., I was pacing. By noon, I stopped checking the window every time a car passed. I canceled my lunch reservation. I canceled my dinner one too, the one I made for the four of us at that steakhouse where Laura and I used to go before we had kids. I didn't want to sit there explaining to the waiter that no, my party wasn't just late, they weren't coming. By evening, I gave up. I heated up a frozen lasagna that had been in the freezer for 6 months and poured myself a glass of scotch that I'd been saving since I turned 40. It tasted like guilt. Like bitter herbs soaked in regret. I ate on the back porch. Alone. At 9:41 p.m., I got a text from Sophie. Happy birthday, BTW. Also, can you help with my car payment? Mom said you might. No punctuation. No apology. Just an ask. Like I was the family ATM, not the man who had quietly paid for her first semester of college when her scholarship didn't cover everything. Not the man who sat through 6 hours of high school theater because she played townsperson number 4 in our town and forgot half her lines. Just, can you help? That's what I was to her now. Not even worth the capital Y and U. I stared at that message for a long time. Thought about all the birthdays I'd planned for them over the years. Thought about the times Sophie cried because I'd forgotten to pick up the blue frosting instead of green. Thought about Lara's 40th birthday, when I rented that Airbnb with the fireplace and the stupid antique bathtub she loved. Thought about all the mornings I woke up early so everyone else could sleep in. And now, on my day, I woke up to a note-less house and a text asking for money. I typed one word back. No. No explanation. No exclamation. Just a period at the end like a quiet door shutting. Then I stood up, walked inside, and opened my banking app. I stared at our joint account. All these years, we kept it together. One pot. One shared pool. I always believed in transparency and trust. But now, trust felt like a joke. Like something I'd been playing alone. I transferred everything, every last dollar, out of the joint account and into my personal savings. One account I never touched, never even mentioned. It wasn't even hidden. Just forgotten. Until now. The moment I hit confirm, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I just felt awake. Like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life, and suddenly someone turned the lights on. 2 days passed. No calls. No return home. No sorry. We had to leave early. Or it was supposed to be a surprise. Nothing. Just radio silence from the people I thought I mattered to. Until Friday morning. At 7:42 a.m., I was in the kitchen pouring myself coffee when I heard the knock. 3 sharp raps on the door. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing there. One of them asked, "Sir, are you Sean?" I nodded, heart beginning to pound. "We received a missing person report. Your wife and children said you've disappeared. Are you all right?" And just like that, my birthday silence exploded into chaos. But that wasn't even the part that got me. What got me was what they said next. And that is where everything started to unravel. The younger officer was the first to speak. "Your wife filed a missing person report. She said you left in distress, that you might have harmed yourself." I blinked. "What?" "She said you didn't come home for 2 nights, that you emptied your accounts, sent a strange message to your daughter, and haven't answered your phone." I let out a bitter laugh. "I haven't answered because nobody called. I haven't left. I've been here the whole time. At home. In my own house. Alone." The older officer squinted. "So you're not in any danger?" "Only from being completely taken for granted. They asked to come inside, so I let them in. I showed them the security camera feed from the doorbell app. No activity except a couple Amazon packages. I showed them the texts, the bank transfer, my ID, my coffee mug with world's okayest dad on it. Every detail screamed normal, except for the part where my own family pretended I vanished into thin air." The cops exchanged a glance. One of them cleared his throat. "I'm sorry to ask, but has there been any history of conflict at home?" I shrugged. "Not the screaming kind. Just years of quiet erosion. You know what I mean." They didn't answer. Just nodded, made a few notes, and left after asking me to call Laura and let her know I was okay. I told them I'd think about it. I didn't. What I did instead was open a cold can of ginger ale, sit on the couch, and stare at the TV without turning it on. That was the day something cracked. Not snapped. Cracked. Quietly. Like a frozen lake under pressure. See, if this had just been about a forgotten birthday, I could have brushed it off. Chalked it up to bad timing, miscommunication, a fluke. But they reported me missing. As if I was the unstable one. As if I'd just wandered off into the woods barefoot, muttering to myself. And not because they were worried, either. No, this was about money. I could see it plain as day now. The missing report? That was insurance. Paper trail. A setup. Maybe they thought I'd had some kind of breakdown, and they'd be entitled to access the funds if I was legally unfit. Maybe they were trying to freeze my accounts. Maybe Laura was already talking to a lawyer. And Sophie's text? A test. A baited line. The fact that I said no probably startled them more than anything. Because I never said no. Not to Laura. Not to Sophie. Not to Tyler. I was the reliable one. The doormat with a steady paycheck. I'd never questioned it before, but now it all looked different. That afternoon, I went upstairs and opened the top drawer of my old oak desk, the one Laura always called Clutter Central. I hadn't really gone through it in years. But in the back, under some expired warranties and old birthday cards, I found what I was looking for. The deed to the house. In my name. Sole owner. See, Laura and I bought this place when we were just starting out. I was the one with decent credit and savings. She'd just left grad school with loans. We always talked about putting her name on the deed, but we never did. Not out of malice, just because life got busy. She trusted me. I trusted her. Or so I thought. The next drawer down held a file labeled Estate Planning. Inside, the trust I'd set up after my dad passed. 2 rental properties he'd left me. A brokerage account I'd barely touched. The kids were named as contingent beneficiaries, but everything else was in my name. Laura had never shown much interest in the details. I guess it was easier to assume I'd always be around to keep the lights on. The following morning, Saturday, they finally came back. I was sipping coffee on the porch when I heard the tires crunching the driveway. Laura stepped out first, sunglasses on, looking exhausted but not nearly as upset as someone should have been after reporting their husband missing. Sophie trailed behind, earbuds in, scrolling on her phone. Tyler was the last one out, glancing up at me with that awkward half-smile teenage boys use when they don't know whose side to be on. I didn't move, didn't wave, just sipped. Laura walked up to me with that practiced calm she used to use on the kids when they were toddlers. "Sean, we need to talk." I motioned to the chairs beside me. "Go ahead." She sat down, crossed her legs. Sophie stayed by the car, pretending not to listen. Tyler hovered near the porch steps. I didn't know how to get through to you, Laura said. You've been so distant lately. Distant? I echoed. Because I didn't respond to one text? After being ignored on my birthday? She sighed. We didn't mean for it to happen that way. The getaway was planned weeks ago. I told you about it. You said you were thinking about a weekend with your sister. I cut in. Never said it was booked. Never said it was the same day as my 50th birthday. She faltered. We thought you needed space. I gave a humorless laugh. You thought I needed space, so you left without telling me and called the cops 2 days later? Now she got defensive. You drained the account, Sean. What were we supposed to think? That maybe I finally decided to stop being your backup plan. Silence. Thick and stretching. Then Sophie chimed in from behind her sunglasses. It's not that deep, Dad. You're being dramatic. I turned to her, blood rising. You texted me for money before even saying happy birthday. I did say happy birthday, she snapped. You tacked it on to the same message where you asked for money. Laura stepped in. Okay, enough. Let's not do this here. Why not? You brought it here. Another pause. Tyler looked down at his shoes. I didn't file the report to hurt you, Laura said finally. I was worried. Genuinely. I just stared at her. And the part where you tried to access the joint account? Was that out of worry too? That stopped her cold. You forget, I said quietly. I still get notifications. Her jaw tensed. And then it came. The first crack in her perfect composure. I needed to pay for the cabin, Sean. You disappearing like that. I didn't know if you were coming back. I never left. Emotionally. You did, she said sharply. And there it was. The emotional guilt trip. The narrative flip. Suddenly, I was the problem. Suddenly my reaction to being abandoned, ignored, and used was the issue. But I wasn't falling for it this time. Laura, I said calmly. This isn't working anymore. You see me as a wallet. Sophie sees me as a vending machine. Tyler doesn't even speak unless prompted. I've spent 20 years making sure this family had everything it needed. And on the one day I asked for nothing, you all vanished. She didn't answer. Sophie rolled her eyes and turned away. Tyler looked like he wanted to crawl into the porch railing and disappear. I'm not mad, I continued. I'm done pretending this is okay. And then Laura said something I will never forget. You're being selfish. That word hit me like a slap. After all the years of early mornings, of driving carpools, fixing leaking faucets, shoveling snow at 5 a.m., tutoring math I barely remembered, doing overtime to afford vacations that nobody thanked me for. Selfish. She got up and stormed inside. Sophie followed, muttering something under her breath. Tyler hesitated, then went in too. I sat there for a long time. The wind picked up. The trees rustled. Somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower kicked on. That was the moment the crack in the ice spread across the lake. That was when I stopped hoping things would go back to normal. Because normal was the problem. That was when I decided I wasn't going to fix this. I was going to end it. But not the way they thought. Not with yelling. Not with threats. No. With precision. With planning. Because if they wanted to pretend I was gone, I'd show them what it really meant to lose me. And that was just the beginning. When the door slammed behind them, I didn't flinch. I just sat there, holding my coffee like it was some kind of anchor in the rising storm. That word kept echoing in my head like an annoying ringtone I couldn't shut off. Selfish. It was almost laughable. After everything I'd done, all the compromises, all the sacrifices, that was the label I walked away with. It was the kind of accusation you expect from someone who has no idea what it cost you to keep them warm, fed, and safe for decades. Or maybe they knew, and just didn't care. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of spite. Out of instinct. Something in me had shifted. I didn't want to be near her. I didn't want to smell her perfume on the pillow or hear the sound of her setting her phone on the charger like it was any other night. It wasn't. I woke up at 4:47 a.m. No alarm. Just my body, wired from years of routine. I got up, showered, dressed, and walked out the door before anyone else stirred. I didn't leave a note. Didn't say goodbye. Let them wonder. I drove until the city was behind me and the air felt different. Ended up at a diner off Route 12. One of those places where the waitresses call you honey, and the coffee is always a little burnt but never empty. The waitress, Marlene, according to the badge, looked at me like she'd seen 100 versions of me before. Bad night? She asked as she poured. Bad decade. She chuckled and topped off the cup. You want the sorry you're alive breakfast or the midlife crisis special? First one comes with toast. Second one comes with pie. Give me the toast, I said. Not ready for the pie just yet. She nodded like she understood. I stayed there for hours, watching trucks roll by, listening to the hum of the kitchen, thinking. By noon, I'd made a decision. I called into work and took a personal day, my first in over a year. Then I drove home, parked outside, and just sat in the car. I didn't want to go back inside. That house, once filled with laughter and school projects and Sunday morning pancakes, now felt like enemy territory. But I had to go in eventually. Laura was in the kitchen, scrolling on her phone with a mug in hand. She looked up when I walked in. Where were you? She asked. I needed air. We were worried. No, you weren't. You just didn't want to lose control. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. Don't. Not now. And then I went upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and packed it with just enough to get by. Some clothes, my toiletries, my laptop, a few books. I left the wedding photo on the nightstand. Didn't even look at it. Tyler saw me on the stairs. Where are you going? I paused. Somewhere I can think. He nodded, but didn't ask more. That kid. He had more emotional intelligence in his silence than the rest of them had in their words. I checked into a modest hotel about 20 minutes away. Nothing fancy, just quiet, clean, neutral. The bed was too soft and the water pressure wasn't great, but I slept like a man who hadn't rested in years. The next few weeks were the strangest mix of grief and relief I've ever felt. Grief for the life I thought I had. Relief that I no longer had to pretend it was working. I didn't ghost them. I stayed in touch, briefly, businesslike. Laura texted to ask about the mortgage. I told her it was still being paid. Sophie messaged me a passive-aggressive, "Hope you are okay," followed by another request for $300 just until Friday. I ignored it. Tyler called once. We talked for 5 minutes. Mostly silence, but it meant more than anything the others said. Work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into projects I'd been putting off, reconnected with old colleagues, even started mentoring a new hire named Marcus who reminded me of a younger, more optimistic me. He asked a lot of questions. I didn't mind. For once, someone actually wanted to hear what I had to say. One Friday, about a month after I left, my boss pulled me into his office. I heard you've been staying late, he said. Everything okay? I gave a non-committal shrug. He studied me for a moment. There's a regional director position opening up in 3 months. You'd have to relocate, but it's a big step up. That was the first time in a while I felt something flicker in my chest. Possibility. I told him I'd think about it. Outside of work, I started rebuilding the version of myself I'd shelved for the past 20 years. Joined a gym. Not because I wanted abs. I'm 50, not delusional, but because I wanted to feel strong again. I started journaling at night. Nothing fancy, just thoughts. Questions. Bits of clarity. Like this one. Maybe being needed isn't the same as being loved. I thought about that a lot. Weekends, I drive. No destination. Just me, a thermos of coffee, and the road. I found this little lake about 40 minutes out, hidden behind some trees, completely unmarked. I started bringing a folding chair and a book. Sometimes I'd just sit there, listening to the water. For the first time in decades, I wasn't on anyone's schedule. Wasn't reacting to someone else's drama. One Saturday, I ran into Marlene again, the diner waitress. She remembered my order. We ended up talking for over an hour. You look lighter, she said. I think I finally exhaled. She smiled. About time. Back at the hotel, the staff started greeting me by name. Not like a guest, like a regular. It was weird, but oddly comforting. Like I was slowly forming a new version of home, brick by quiet brick. Then came the kicker. One night, while sorting through old emails, I stumbled across a PDF Laura had forwarded me last year. Some family trust paperwork I hadn't looked at closely. I opened it and nearly choked. She'd changed the emergency contact to her brother without telling me. That wasn't the part that got me. The part that did? She'd listed him as a financial advisor on a few of our joint investments. And I hadn't noticed. I dug deeper. Checked the shared Google Drive we used. Found folders I'd never seen. One marked Summer Planning. Inside were notes between Laura and Sophie, plans to renovate the kitchen, take a trip to Italy, even lease a new SUV. All under the assumption that I'd be funding it. There was even a spreadsheet with my name in the header, Dad Budget 2025. No mention of asking me. No mention of including me. Just line items with dollar signs and the casual entitlement of people who believe the ATM never runs out. That was when the anger came back. Not hot and wild, cold and focused. Like a scalpel. I realized then that I hadn't just been excluded emotionally. I'd been phased out. Slowly. Systematically. They had built an entire parallel life with my money and none of my input. And I'd let it happen. Because I thought that's what being a good husband, a good father, meant. Providing. Absorbing. Enduring. No more. That night, I made a list. Not of revenge. Of clarity. Things I would no longer do. I would not fund people who didn't respect me. I would not return to a house that felt more like a contract than a home. I would not answer texts that only came with dollar signs attached. I would not apologize for walking away from a life that suffocated me in silence. And then I made a second list. Things I would do. Accept the promotion. Move. Change the deed and trust documents. Write a will. A real one, not the one Laura knew about. Start over. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew when. Soon. Because while they were planning their Italian vacation with my money, I was planning something else entirely, and they'd never see it coming. The Sunday after I finished those two lists, I drove back out to the lake. This time, I didn't bring a book. I brought a pen and a notebook, the thick kind with the black leather cover and college-ruled pages. I opened to the first clean page and wrote one word at the top. Setup. Not revenge. Not spite. Just setup. A repositioning. A quiet reset. Not because I wanted to destroy them. That was never the plan. I didn't want flames and explosions. I wanted clarity, control, truth, and a clean exit. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't about getting even. This was about getting free. The first step was the house. Technically, it was mine. Legally. Fully. My name was on the deed, and Lara's wasn't. She never pushed to change that, and I never thought I needed to. Until I realized what kind of power it gave me now. I called a real estate attorney, someone I'd worked with once, years ago, during my father's estate case. Her name was Clarice, and she remembered me right away. Mr. Boyd, it's been a while. Too long, I said. I have a question about the house. She walked me through my options, and what I learned was eye-opening. Because the deed is solely in your name, Clarice said, you can rent, sell, or transfer ownership without needing spousal consent. If there's a mortgage, the lender may require certain steps, but as the owner of record, you hold the cards. I let that sink in. And if I wanted to move things into a trust? Even better, she said. If you establish a trust and transfer the property into it, you gain an extra layer of protection. Just be mindful, depending on your state, any changes in residency or marital status could complicate things later. Perfect, I said. By the end of the call, I'd scheduled a follow-up to draft a new living trust. One that didn't include Laura, Sophie, or Tyler. Not out of punishment, but because I needed to draw the line between us and me. Step 1, underway. Step 2 was work. I told my boss I'd take the promotion. Are you sure? He asked. It's a big shift. New city. New staff. I'm sure, I said. I've got nothing tying me down anymore. He nodded. You'll be great. The new role started in 2 months. That gave me a runway, not just to plan, but to disappear cleanly. No fireworks. No messy scenes. Just a vanishing act. I kept it quiet. Didn't tell Laura. Didn't even tell my kids. As far as they knew, I was still figuring things out. Living out of a hotel. Playing the lost husband. The confused dad. Let them believe it. That illusion gave me the breathing room I needed. Step 3, finances. This was the tricky part. Laura still had access to a few joint accounts, mostly the ones we used for household expenses. I didn't want to trigger alarms by freezing or draining them all at once. That would be too obvious, too suspicious. So instead, I did it slowly, patiently. Week by week, I redirected auto deposits to new accounts. I moved small chunks of savings, nothing flashy, just enough to gradually consolidate. I closed old cards, opened new ones, changed passwords, shifted insurance beneficiaries. All legal, all above board. I wasn't hiding anything. I was protecting everything. From people who clearly thought I owed them access by default. One day, I logged into our family cloud drive and downloaded every document Laura had ever uploaded. Tax records, car titles, receipts, birth certificates. I made copies, stored them on a flash drive, and tucked it into the bottom of my suitcase. The digital trail was cleaned up. Backup secure. Everything Laura thought she controlled, I now had a full mirror of. Step 4, allies. This was unexpected. One afternoon, I ran into Tyler at the grocery store. He looked surprised to see me. "You're still in town?" he asked, voice low. "For now." He hesitated, then said, "Can we talk?" We walked to a nearby bench outside the store. He stared at his shoes for a long time before speaking. "Mom told everyone you abandoned us," he said. "Said you were having a breakdown. That you didn't want us anymore." I looked at him. "And do you believe that?" He shook his head. "Not after the cops came. Not after I saw the way she talked about it. Like it was a joke." My heart clenched. "I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm telling you something." He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots. Messages between Laura and her brother. Conversations about contingency plans, reassignment of assets, and full access by June. My stomach turned. "You got these how?" I asked. "I used the old iPad," Tyler said. "It's still synced to her phone. She never unlinked it." I couldn't believe it. Or maybe I could. "I've been reading stuff for weeks," he added. "They think you're gonna cave. That you'll come back, apologize, and just hand it all over." I closed my eyes. "No, not this time." Tyler looked up. "Can I come with you?" The question hit me like a wave. I hadn't expected that. Not from him. "I'm not going far," I said gently. "But why?" "Because you listen," he said. "Because you don't pretend." I nodded. "We'll figure something out." And just like that, I had an ally. Not just in the plan, but in the family I thought I'd lost completely. Step 5, the final push. Once the trust was finalized and the real estate paperwork complete, I made the quietest power move of all. I listed the house for sale. I didn't put a sign on the lawn. I didn't use a traditional agency. I used a private real estate broker, someone who specialized in off-market transactions for high-net-worth individuals. Everything was confidential. The broker knew a buyer, a developer looking for family homes in established neighborhoods. The offer came in above asking. All I had to do was accept. I gave Laura notice, via email, that the house was being sold. I attached a formal 60-day notice of intent to vacate. I cited the deed, the sole ownership, and the legal right to transfer. I gave her a clear move-out date. I expected an explosion. What I got was silence. For 5 days, nothing. Then came the email. "Sean, are you serious? You're selling our home without even talking to me? The kids grew up here. What happened to you?" "Laura." I didn't reply, because what had happened to me? I'd woken up. Finally. And the next email she got was from my attorney, Clarice. Formal. Cold. Legal. Step 6, the reveal. This wasn't going to be loud. No public scene. No family dinner turned dramatic speech. Just actions. A slow unraveling of the illusion they had all built. The one where I was a passive provider, a faceless function. The date of the move came. I didn't help them pack. Didn't offer a truck. Just sent one final message to the family group chat. "House closes Friday. Utilities off by 6 p.m. Please make arrangements." Sophie sent 3 messages in a row. The first was disbelief. The second, outrage. The third, a last-minute ask for money, just to cover gas. I didn't respond. Tyler texted me directly. "They're freaking out. I'll stay at Uncle Jared's for now. Just tell me when you're ready." I smiled at that. Because I was close. Very close. Just one last thread to pull. One final knot to tighten. And then they'd understand. I didn't disappear. I just stopped carrying everyone else's weight. And they never learned how to stand on their own. But the final piece, the one that would leave them speechless, was still to come. Because when the dust settled, they'd realize they hadn't just lost a house. They'd lost their safety net. Their plan B. Their fallback. And by the time they reached out again, not with apologies, but with desperation, I'd already be gone. The final piece clicked into place on a quiet Thursday morning, the kind that smells like rain and old decisions. I was standing in the new apartment I'd leased under my name in the next city over. 2 bedrooms, exposed brick, top-floor corner unit. Nothing extravagant, but it was mine. No scented candles I didn't pick. No throw pillows with passive-aggressive embroidery. Just clean space and silence I chose. I was sipping black coffee, staring out the window at the skyline, when the email came in. Subject, final closing documents. It was from Clarice. Attached were the final signatures from the buyer, the title transfer, the bank wire confirmation. It was done. The house was no longer mine, which meant it was no longer theirs either. I took a deep breath and closed the laptop. That chapter? Over. The fallout came faster than I expected. The first wave hit 2 days later. It started with a text from Sophie. "What the hell, Dad? You sold the house. Where are we supposed to go? I didn't answer. 2 hours later, another one. This is insane. You need to fix this. Mom is losing it. And then, like clockwork, Laura called. I let it ring. Voicemail. A few minutes later, my inbox lit up with a long, multi-paragraph message. Sean, I can't believe what you've done. This is beyond selfish. You left us homeless. We had plans. Sophie's semester starts soon. Tyler has nowhere to go. How could you just vanish? This isn't the man I married. You used to be dependable, responsible, a provider. You've destroyed everything. I'm meeting with a lawyer. You'll be hearing from me. I didn't even blink. Instead, I forwarded the email to Clarice. 5 minutes later, she responded. Already prepared. Let her try. Laura did try. She lawyered up. Send a letter through counsel claiming emotional distress, marital abandonment, and a wrongful sale of shared property. They demanded a reversal of the transaction and full spousal support, despite the fact that we'd never legally merged assets beyond the accounts I had already drained. Clarice crafted the perfect response. Every document, every transfer, every timestamp, all legal, all documented. The paper trail was airtight. Laura had never requested her name be added to the deed. The accounts in question had been in my name. The house, paid off from my father's inheritance, gifted solely to me. There was nothing for her to take, except, maybe, a long look in the mirror. The letter we sent back was polite, unemotional. Per the terms of ownership, no marital assets were inappropriately transferred or sold. Any further legal action will be considered harassment and responded to accordingly. After that, the legal threat stopped. But the messages? Oh, they kept coming. From Sophie, can you please just help with 1 month's rent? I can't crash with Mom forever. She's driving me nuts. From Laura, I know things got messy, but don't you think we owe it to the kids to be civil? Maybe meet for lunch? Talk. From Tyler, I told Mom I'm moving in with you. She flipped out, said you're unstable and vindictive. I told her to look in the mirror. Tyler moved in the following week. He brought a single suitcase and a backpack. We didn't talk much that first night. We just ordered pizza and watched The Matrix. When the final credits rolled, he looked at me and said, "Thanks for choosing yourself, Dad." That sentence hit harder than any courtroom argument. As weeks turned into months, I began settling into my new life. The promotion came through. The title on my door now read, Regional Director of Logistics, Western Division. The office was sleek, the staff sharp, the hours flexible. I hired Marcus, the guy I'd been mentoring, as my second in command. He handled the chaos with that wide-eyed eagerness I used to have in my 30s. On my lunch breaks, I walked the city parks. Sometimes I brought my journal. Sometimes I just watched people pass by, wondering how many of them were sleepwalking through lives they didn't choose. I wasn't. Not anymore. One evening, while checking my mail, I found a cream-colored envelope wedged between the flyers and bills. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dad, I've been doing some thinking. At first, I was angry. Not just at you, but at everything. I thought I deserved more, money, help, attention. But you were right. I took you for granted. I remember all the rides to practice, all the late-night study sessions, the birthday parties you planned. I don't think I ever really saw you. Not until you left. I'm sorry. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say it. Thank you for everything. Sophie. I read it twice, folded it carefully, slid it into the drawer next to my journal. I didn't text back right away. I let the silence speak for once. As for Laura, the last I heard, she moved into her sister's guest house. She tried applying for a refinance loan, probably to buy a place of her own, but with limited income and shaky credit, it didn't go far. I know this because a mutual friend of ours, Amanda, still worked at the local bank branch and quietly told me. She came in furious, said you sabotaged her future. I didn't say anything, but I thought, he finally stopped paying for your mistakes. That was all I needed to hear. Tyler enrolled in community college nearby. He picked up a part-time job at a bookstore downtown. Sometimes we talked late into the night, about life, about trust, about the kind of man he wanted to be. He asked questions I never expected. Deep ones. Honest ones. One night, he said, "Do you think people ever really change?" I looked at him and said, "Only when losing something finally hurts more than keeping it." He nodded. "I think Mom's still blaming everyone but herself." "Some people never stop playing the victim," I said, "even when they're holding the knife." There was no dramatic courtroom scene. No viral video. No Facebook post with 1,000 shares. Just the quiet, methodical crumbling of entitlement when it no longer had a host to feed from. And me? I didn't just walk away from them. I walked toward something else. Something better. Peace. Clarity. And for the first time in decades, self-respect. I didn't get revenge in the form of screaming matches or social humiliation. I got it by removing myself from a system that expected me to burn so they could stay warm. I stopped being the hero of someone else's story and became the author of my own. 1 year to the day after my 50th birthday, I woke up in my new apartment. No balloons, no cake, no noise, just a quiet knock at the door. It was Tyler, holding a cup holder with 2 coffees and a bag of warm breakfast sandwiches. He handed me one and said, "Happy birthday, old man." I laughed. "Thanks, kid." We sat on the balcony, eating in comfortable silence. The sky was a soft shade of gray-blue. And for the first time in my life, I felt no weight on my shoulders. No performance. No invisible scoreboard. Just me. Alive. Free. And finally whole. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you take from them. It's what you give back to yourself.